Black Power. It's 9/11/2016. I want to honor and pay respect to all of our ancestors whose lives have been stolen and destroyed by this white nationalist beast. Specifically, I want to speak to the life of the young martyr Darren Seals, who was just recently executed in Ferguson. He was shot and then burned inside of his car. He is the sixth person who was killed like this. So that says there's a group out there that feels as though they're untouchable. And one of Darren's videos pretty much reveals who this group is. He was pulled over, detained, and harassed at one point by a bunch of white pigs, and they told him to choose his enemies more wisely. And, not too long after this happened. So it's very simple of us putting together, the pieces of the puzzle. If this were them and they had similar evidence against somebody, they would be making arrests right now. So that is why we have to abandon this idea of a federal government or any governing body of white nationalism to do anything on our behalf. We have to understand our duty as a movement is to formulate a new governing body that is capable of looking out for our interests, protecting and preserving our lives. And that means putting names, faces, residences to those who are violating us and have a movement strong enough to go seize and arrest these individuals, pull these individuals into our own courts and tribunals. So, we have to get past, these false narratives coming from even inside the movement. And that is one of the things Darren also spoke to. He put out a couple interviews and even some of his own videos where he was speaking of how the Ferguson movement had been co-opted. He was specifically saying an individual named DeRay, I think McKesson, and the Black Lives Matter movement, not the Black Lives Matter movement, but the Black Lives Matter organization came out there and co-opted what they were doing. Another sister also has a video making similar claims and allegations. And the only thing I've noticed is people aren't dismissing or refuting what Darren and the sister are claiming. They're more so attacking his person, calling him misogynistic, homophobic, but not speaking to whether or not there's any validity or not any validity to what he was saying. And allegations such as George Soros, they've been floating around for a while. I myself have questioned people with the Black Lives Matter movement. I've been told no, it's not true. But there's one sister, I believe her name is Netanyahu. I might be mispronouncing or not even saying it correctly, but I'll try to find a link and add it within the description of this video. She more specifically goes into supposed connections between George Soros and the Black Lives Matter organization. And the threat of that is, we know George Soros is a main contributor of Hillary Clinton. So if he's financing the campaign of the queen of the prison industrial complex, he's financing the campaign of the queen of the militarization of the police forces in our community, there's no legitimate way he could be financing the resistance. So if that's true, if it's not true, it just needs to be more clarity to that. But in Los Angeles, there were many more individuals and organizations who helped to co-opt our movement. In 2013, we actually had a coalition of organizations, and within that coalition, we found one brother was a police officer. We had to dismiss him. And then later on towards the end, one sister we identified was creating a lot of disruption and animosity within that coalition. Researched her roots back up in Oakland. She had done similar things, but she evaded being held accountable, even though she pressed that another sister in that coalition be put in a hot seat. But when it came her turn, she ran, and then other people in the community finally helped her get off the hook. But yeah, Milwaukee, Atlanta, all these other areas that are organizing, same thing happening to us. Brothers and sisters in the 60s was telling us. Malcolm, Huey were telling us the same thing. Marcus Garvey was telling us the same thing. They find Negroes who, through their ego, they can put on payroll, and within their own minds, they legitimize why they're taking the white man's money and take this elitist position, and then other ones are straight out on the agenda to co-opt and keep us as a people down. So we have to identify what's really going on. But I salute and I give thanks for the life, the efforts of this young brother Darren Seals, and to his comrades. I understand the pain y'all going through, but use his life and work as a means of motivation. Don't allow it to discourage you or have you stop. When the French apprehended Toussaint L'Ouverture, Dessalines went ahead and drove that victory home, and that's the same position y'all now have to take. Don't let this brother life be in vain. Another thing I heard is that time was wasted and the opportunity was lost by allowing these organizations to co-opt your movement. But as long as you breathing, as long as you setting foot out in the streets today, tomorrow, the movement continues. So forward and victory. As far as today being 9/11, even more information is coming out concerning the U.S.'s involvement in that. So again, how people are talking about voting right now is craziness. But I just tell people to look at more alternative sources of information and thoroughly investigate what happened. You got a question right now: why is President Obama blocking or threatening to veto a bill that would allow the families of victims from 9/11 to sue the Saudi Arabian government for their involvement? Why would Obama block that? You have to question that. And again, not the little BS rhetoric excuses he's going to give you, but they talking about going for terrorists, so why would he be protecting these folks who have supposedly or were supposedly involved in one of the greatest terrorist acts of our time? Speaking on Obama, a lot of people are saying he stepped in, intervened, and helped the freedom fighters win the victory in North Dakota. No, that's another act of pacification. They've done it within our movements against police terrorism. They've done it in a lot of different movements. If you remember the Oregon militia not too long ago, they did the same thing with them. They basically use this as a stall tactic. In the meantime, they figure out how to neutralize. They identify and figure out how to neutralize everybody who was going out there as a means of resistance, either turning y'all against each other or just more straight out means of executing folks. But that is exactly what's happening right now. It's not he did anything in anybody's favor. Today, the annual Hajj is climaxing. Last year, 2015, one of the greatest massacres of modern times took place. People are saying anywhere from 700 to 1,200 Muslim brothers were killed in a stampede that was triggered by one of the Saudi Arabian princes. He is not being held accountable, so there are a lot more people out there this year to monitor that situation. Iran is really pushing to hold some accountability against Saudi Arabia, but again, when we overstand, two of the main targets of this new world order are the African and the Muslims. So all of this is very much connected, and we need to pay more attention to it, but also give more of a voice and shed more light on it. Want to give major props to the September 9th prison strike. All of its organizers on the inside and outside. I've been talking to several brothers actually for years about getting past these hunger strikes, but actually focusing more on these labor strikes. And some great people were inspired this year and made it happen. And some of the folks incarcerated I've been communicating with were looking around the prisons they were in and felt brothers was just on too much foolishness to get involved. There wasn't enough love and support on the outside to help sustain it. But we see otherwise. Yeah, probably a very historic action is in motion right now because the strike is continuing. Those of us on the outside have to continue to not just boycott these corporations that are profiting off of prison labor, but educating more people on these corporations: McDonald's, Walmart, Whole Foods, Starbucks, Honda, Nike, and others. I will include that in the description also. Some people are questioning, why were we seeing all these white people speaking on it, white people doing interviews, white organizations, white people raising money, blah, blah, blah. First and foremost, that is because of a lack of our own people involved in it. When I was researching, trying to find information on it, I noticed a lot of individuals and black organizations I normally get information from were not covering this story, which is very unfortunate. And some of the reasons I was seeing is some people got their own personal issues and beliefs and feel brothers need to be locked up. Other people are sharing more general beliefs that, black people, I'm talking about black people are expressing these views, saying that black people need to be locked up. But the unfortunate irony to that is, on one hand, we acknowledge mass incarceration as the modern day slavery. So there's no way we could say it's the modern day slavery but not be involved in the abolishment of it because of personal issues. To address our personal issues, that is why our movement again has to become a governing body of our own interests and deal with both internal and external issues. But we can't just say, oh, because this happened with me and that person who's locked up, I ain't fucking with this prison abolition. That's some bullshit. But salute to everyone. I want to salute the Wallace sisters out here in Los Angeles, Jessica Ray, David Dang, Ezzy Betts. They organized the action out here at the Twin Towers, and all the other people across the country and even internationally. I was seeing people support this, and they're continuing to support this. We most definitely have to continue to monitor this because brothers and sisters are going to be repressed for this. State, private, and corporate interests are looking to lose billions of dollars behind this. So, whether it's the situation with Holman Prison in Alabama, Holmes Prison in Florida, Brother Kinetic Justice, Brother Sadiq Abdullah Hassan, and others, we have to stay on top of what's happening with them because the moment we drop the ball, that's when the neutralization steps in and takes serious effect. But this is most definitely a historic action and forward with it. Lastly, I just want to speak to Lamert Park. Tomorrow, Monday, September 12th, the group we're being told was responsible for the fence being put up and for other things happening is having a meeting at 10 a.m. at the Vision Theater. So all who are interested in what's happening, all who are available, come to that meeting. Supposedly there's a minority who has taken an elitist position and believe they have the right to make decisions in their own best interest to the detriment of the greater community as a whole. So we need to go and remind them that that's not how this flies. But as always, just ending that for our movement to continue to move forward and be successful, ultimately we have to be able to respond on each other's behalves. Whether it's protecting each other when these pigs try to gang up on us, pull weapons out on us, or whether it's medical emergencies or whatever, people losing their homes, we have to respond to that. It's not just about rallies, it's not about interviews, press conferences, and all this other stuff, but we have to actually become the new movement to address the needs of the people. All power to the people.